Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to share a first look at the Pixel Photaville C220 video light. Now this is a COB LED light, much like the Aperture 120 and the 120 Mark D. The key difference is that the Pixel is much less expensive. $450 or $500 US, anywhere in that range. Right now I believe it's at $450, is what it costs in order to pick one of these up. And that compares very favorably to the $700 and nearly $50 US that the Aperture 120D costs. Now, you may not have heard of Pixel. They reached out to me, asked if I'd be interested in reviewing the light, and I said, sure, send it over. So let's take a look at what's in here. One thing I want to point out as I go in here is that it is actually rated to be more powerful than the Aperture 120D Mark II, and that's because this is a 220 watt light, but its actual lux rating is higher. I believe it's 66,000. First thing we see, paperwork, the registration, user manual. Next thing we have, let's see what it is. Small white box here. And this is the remote. We have a CR 2032 battery for the remote control. This works over a 2.4 gigahertz band and gives you basically all of the functional controls that you will need for the C220 light that I'm about to take out of the package. So let's see what else we have inside here. The carry case, you may have noticed, I did as well, is very similar in terms of fit and finish to that of the Aperture 120D. And now we're getting into it. So let's get the cables out, and then I will get the carry case out of the way. So this is the power brick right here. It looks like the included cable for power here is obviously not for the States, for the US. So it's good that they include it. But I guess it's because they're making a one model fits all solution here. Then we have the actual power cable for the US. And unlike the Aperture 120D, this light has its control unit on the actual light as opposed to the power brick. That's something, I think that's really the key difference in terms of fit and finish. Here is the cage for mounting the power source. And then let's see what else we have here. Strap, and I think that's it. I think we're down to the light itself. So let me pull that out. Bowens mount, of course. What else would you expect? And the light does look a lot like the Aperture 120D. I mean, fit and finish, very, very similar. There's the COB LED. 5600K is the daylight color temperature that this essentially will provide you. Loosen this up. And this way you can actually see the display right there. We have, of course, the DC input is right there. The actual LCD screen for the readout, which again on the Aperture 120 series is on the actual power brick. The dial for the level of output, and then essentially all of your controls, power included. This does not come with a stand for this. That is something you will need to purchase separately. This is the release button, I believe, for the Bowens mount. It is. And I mean, overall, if this is what you're in the market for, and they do make this at lower wattages, they're less expensive, of course, and if it does a decent job in terms of cooling the LED and it's not too noisy, I think this is going to be a very good solution for those of you looking for that Aperture 120D performance without spending that Aperture 120D money. And that's exactly why when they reached out to me, I said, let me take a look, because this is something that I absolutely can use here on the channel. And I think it's a lot, something that a lot of you out there are interested in, but it's a matter of finding the right light for you. So that's it. There's nothing else in the bag. Let me check that front compartment. We'll need to get a soft box attached to this to actually see what performance is like. But overall, I mean, some people might call this a clone of the Aperture 120D. I look at it as a functional product. I don't like calling things clones unless they literally are, and just because it has the look and feel of the Aperture 120 doesn't mean it's a clone by any means. I mean, Pixel has their own identity. They are, in my opinion, relatively unknown, but that may change as these products hit the market. And this did come out towards the end of last year. I believe it was the end of October. So here we now have it. And essentially, I'm going to go ahead and get this thing set up, see what the output is like. But in terms of, on paper, the specifications, again, I want to reiterate that what you're getting here is incredibly competent, at least based on what it's being quoted as in terms of its capability, a CRI of 97, so very color accurate. Again, daylight at 5600K. This is not RGB, but 66,000 lux, I mentioned that before, so actually brighter than the Aperture 120D, but it should. It's 220 watts, 99 TLCI. I'm looking to see in terms of what else I should point out, but you know, once I get a parabolic softbox on here, then we'll really know what this thing is capable of. I'm going to have to see which size I want to attach to it, since this is a very powerful light, and I'm going to want to cut it down and get it as soft as possible. But overall, again, at $450 to $500 US, this seems to be a bargain. It's all going to be a matter of whether or not it's what you're actually looking for. And for me, at least, it seems like a great solution, even if it is a little bit loud, because in my capacity, how I'm going to use it, that may not be too much of an issue. But again, I'll be testing it out. Hopefully it isn't too loud, because that is often a pitfall of lights of this type. But overall, I like the fit and finish. I like the carry case. You know, it just seems to be exactly what you should be getting for the money. And yes, there are a lot of options out there if you're looking for, you know, a COB LED light like this. And that's why I thought it would be good to share this one with all of you. Whether or not I'll get some more in to review, time will only tell. Any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. Hit that like button. And as usual, please feel free to subscribe. Later.